Right now I want to talk about shape language, about how the basic shapes can really inform the character. So here we have, can you guess the second shape? It's a character called Heathcliff, and the third shape is Petey the Cat from Dogman. And it's pretty similar. They've got the faces that are round, and their bodies are round on the two fat cats. And to make a skinny cat like Petey, you just replace the round circle with a skinny shape like a rectangle. So here we have our three cartoon cats, and let's get rid of their bodies and just work on their heads and get a little bit of information. Well, all the heads are the same. They start with a circle, but they're certainly different, and that is because the details are different. The shapes of their noses and their eyes are different, and not just that, but where everything is positioned. As you see, Garfield's nose is low on his face. Heathcliff's is high. Petey's is right smack in the middle. So we have a reference point, the nose. Everything is going to be drawn from the nose. And this is how we're going to get three circles ending up looking like different characters. Garfield, his eyes are huge. They take up half of his head. Heathcliff, his nose is up there, and so his eyes are smaller. Petey just has a couple of lines. And so three different eyes. So our round shape has kind of become individualized because of the positioning and the proportions. And look, Petey and Heathcliff both have the same ears even. So this is, we get rid of the bodies, and you can see much better that just by positioning the nose and getting the eyes in the correct place, you've started on characters that look very much like the originals, even though the shape language from the head, the circle, is the same. Now let's look at their mouths. Heathcliff has sort of a W for a mouth. Garfield has a W for a mouth. And Heathcliff has a huge W for mouth because he's got all this room on his face to work with. And you can see that they have, here we go. I'm going to show you the placement of the top of their mouths is very important too. You don't want Heathcliff to be too low and Garfield too high. Petey, on the other hand, he's got this big old, looks like a moon or a boat-shaped mouth. So there you go. Three circles, three different ways, and you can really see the characters starting out. Now let's talk a little bit about the bodies and how do you handle a body. Again, you have the round shape language, tells us they're fat characters, and the rectangle tells us that there is a skinny character. Now let's go and kind of get those basic shapes for the limbs down for Petey. They're really not that complicated to draw. I think Dave Pilkey had made it specifically that way, and it's part of the fun of the Dogman books that you can actually draw the characters. So their limbs are kind of like spaghetti. They've got these nice shapes for the feet, sort of like clovers for the hands, and then a nice spaghetti-like tail there at the bottom. And then we have Heathcliff. He's got completely different feet, but also quite simple to draw. And a tail that's not too different from Petey's. Again, simple to draw, but these hands, ay, ay, ay. So what you have to do is break them down to the basic shapes. and I see the entirety of these folded hands is looking as an oval, and then I'm breaking them further into little ovals like that. So we have a series of ovals that really kind of look a little bit messy, but that's why we have erasers, because after we put in our basic shapes, we can go in there and start doing a little bit of erasing and defining more of what we want to end up with. Now, Garfield is probably the more complex of the three characters, again with the hands folded. So we do just like we did with Heathcliff. We put in some basic shapes, and we think through his feet the same way. The toes are just a series of little circles overlapping. The bottom of his foot is like an oval, which is connected to another oval, yet another oval for the toes, and then we're going to draw right through the foot here on this rectangle, which you know is in the background there. And again, we can take our little eraser, and we're just going to erase what we think we don't need. And finally, we're going to bring the tail back for Garfield, and you have your basic shapes all completed and ready to go for the finishes. And so we'll take care of the characters, and you can really see how these basic shapes are giving you kind of a language on which to add details and kind of get you to the next level of making a character really, really look like the character. So let's just fade out a little bit with our basic shapes, and you can do that when you start drawing too. I'm using the computer here, but you can fade out basic shapes if you're working in a pencil by taking an eraser and actually erasing the lines so you just lightly see them, and then you take a pen and go over the parts of your pencils that you think are important to keep. So here I am working on Heathcliff. I picked him because he is a little bit more complex to draw than Petey, and yet he's simpler than Garfield. So we can maybe give you the in-between of how to manipulate the details on the basic shapes in a very simple fashion, but not too simple. So here he's got those goofy cartoon eyes, those kind of cartoon eyes where the two of them kind of meld together were quite popular in the cartoons of the 1960s. And Heathcliff was a very famous cartoon cat. He had his own strip for many years, and a comic book and cartoons on TV, and it sort of was like around before Garfield, and a lot of people kind of fiddle around or fool around that they're very much alike. But anyhow, there we are. We brought up our characters a little bit. You can see the shape language that defines them. We have the round characters. Round makes fat. Round makes cute. And that's what you do. You erase your guidelines, you erase your basic shapes, and there you have your basic character. And that is that.